I, 53F, have been married to my husband Peter, 51M, for 17 years. We have 2 kids, Joan, 15F, and Eric, 17M. Peter and I have been best friends for the majority of our time together, but things changed. About a year ago, Peter got into a bad car accident. He was hit by a drinking driver and was in a coma for a month. It was a really rough time for the family, and the kids and I were pretty much constantly by his side when we weren't at work or school. Thankfully, he pulled through, and he was able to get back to his life after months of recovery and intense physical therapy. Things started to feel like they were going back to normal until he became super religious a few weeks ago. He started to believe that God had saved him, and that he needed to use the second chance he was given to spread the gospel. I'm all for people expressing their religion, but he has latched onto a very conservative type of Christianity, and it is causing a lot of friction between us. Eric is currently in his senior year of high school and is working on the college application process, and Joan has been closely watching this and is very interested. The other day, she came to me crying, saying she had asked her dad what colleges were good for computer science, since she's been very interested in coding for a while now, and her dad said she wouldn't be going to college since her future job was to be a wife and mother, and college would be wasted on her. To say I was furious would be an understatement. I went to him and asked him why he said that. He replied that he was spreading the good word, and he wanted to make sure we didn't lead our children into a sinful alternative lifestyle. I asked him if he expected me to quit my job, since I work from home as an accountant, and focus on being a wife and mother too, and he said that he had wanted to talk to me about this for a while. He said that he wanted me to quit my job since it is not suitable for a woman. This absolutely blindsided me since he had never expressed anything like this before. I told him that I would not be quitting my job, and our daughter would go to college, whether he approved or not. He rolled his eyes and said I'd come around. Everything escalated last night. Joan was going to go to the movies with a couple of friends, and she came down wearing a pair of jeans and a crop top. Typical teenager stuff, nothing she hadn't worn before, but Peter stopped her and told her she had to change. She asked why, and he said he wasn't going to let her leave the house looking like an S-word. I was shocked. He'd never used language like that before. I told her to leave just as she was, and she left. Peter asked if I even cared about our daughter's soul, and I told him it's her body, she could dress herself how she wanted. He said her body is the property of God, not her, and that I needed to respect his religion. I told him I'd never respect a religion that treats women like second-class citizens, and he left the house in a huff. He hasn't come back yet. Am I somehow wrong here? Update 1. First things first, I'm safe, and I'm out of the house with my kids. Many of you expressed concern about their safety and my financial security, and I want to assure you that it is being taken care of. We are safe and with my dad, and my finances were already largely separate. We have a joint account, but that's a small fun money account for movie tickets, dinners out, and stuff like that. I have my own savings that he cannot access. My mom had a slots addiction when I was a kid that nearly ruined our finances, so my dad made me promise I'd have my own savings. Turns out he was really smart to say that. Some people suggested looking for a counselor for Joan, and thankfully, the kids already had a therapist for anxiety after the accident. As soon as we left the house, we scheduled an emergency session to make sure they can process everything that's going on. Many of you said Peter needed to see a doctor because this could be a symptom of a traumatic brain injury, which I agree with. The problem is, since he was discharged months ago and the more worrying symptoms happened recently, I can't force him to get treatment, especially since nothing he said would be considered threatening. I did have a call with him yesterday though. He asked where I was, and I refused to tell him. He didn't get upset, thankfully, he just asked why I took the kids and left, and I told him he wasn't the man I married anymore. I told him that things seemed to be getting worse, and that I needed him to see a doctor because this wasn't normal. He dismissed all of my concerns, saying that he was finally being the sort of man he was supposed to be, and that the medical mafia is trying to make the godly parts of him disappear. I again told him that he wouldn't be seeing the kids or me until he saw a doctor. As soon as I said that, he hung up. I have already blocked him on social media, but my brother sent me a screenshot soon after of a Facebook post he made. It was an unfocused rant that went on for several paragraphs about how doctors and Satan had gotten to me, and that I was hurting our daughter by letting her wear sinful clothing, and that I was setting her up to be harmed by vicious men in the workplace. All the comments were his friends telling him he was scaring them, nobody was on his side. He said they had to cast Satan out of their hearts. When I saw this, I couldn't stop crying. I knew it was over then. There's no way I could make him better if he doesn't want to get better. I sat the kids down and told them I was going to start the process of getting a divorce. They took it really well, and Joan just kept thanking me. I asked her if anything had happened other than words from him that I didn't know about, and thankfully she said no, and Eric said the same. So that's pretty much where things are. We're safe, and he can't get access to my finances. I'm looking for a place of our own since the house is in his name, and I'm going to send my brother and his husband to get our stuff while he's at work tomorrow. Update 2. A few hours ago, my husband called a co-worker of his and started rambling about his current situation, during which he mentioned being suicidal. As soon as the conversation ended, he called 911, and since this was the first time he made a threat to himself, my husband was put into a 5,150 hold. He's finally going to get the medical treatment he needs. Update 3. After my husband was put into a 5,150 hold, I was able to get in touch with the mental health facility he was put into. I mentioned that he had been in a coma a year ago and filled them in on the personality changes I had been seeing. They said they would pass it along to his care team. Yesterday I received a call from the facility, since I am still listed as his emergency contact. After I passed along my experience, they ordered an MRI scan, and they found a massive cranial abscess that was pressing on his frontal lobe. He was immediately sent to surgery to drain it because of the size. The surgery went well, but they say that they don't know what the long-term impacts will be. He's still really out of it, so I don't know how his behavior is going to be. The kids and I are understandably very shaken up. We are still with my father, and we're going to continue to look for our own place in the meantime. We don't know if his personality will return to how it was before, but I'm going to err on the side of caution. No unsupervised visits with the kids, and I will only see him in the presence of a therapist or lawyer for the time being. I really don't know how it's going to go from here, but I know we'll make it through together. Update 4. Hey everyone, it's been a little while. A lot has happened since I last posted, and I want to get you all up to speed. After the surgery, as I said I would in my last post, I had visits with my husband with a counselor from the hospital present during his stay. The first visit, he was obviously very out of it since he'd been in surgery. During the second visit, he was more lucid. He was calmer, but unfortunately, he still believed that he was being mistreated. He kept bringing up how the doctors had tried to remove God from his body but they had failed, and how he didn't want to see the kids again after they'd been lost to the devil. I told him I loved him, but that this wasn't him, and I hoped that there was a part of him I knew still in there. He got really quiet and said to the counselor that he wanted to be alone. I left, and that was the last time I spoke to him in person. From that point on, he completely stonewalled me. Any attempt to text him would be met with either silence or a Bible verse. I ended up renting an apartment with Joan and Eric, and we awkwardly started adjusting to a new normal. All was going about as well as could be until my husband got in another car accident. My husband got discharged since he was deemed no longer a risk to himself or to others. Doctors told him he wasn't supposed to drive, but he apparently convinced a friend of his to let him borrow his car. He was driving when he suddenly drifted into oncoming traffic and got in a head-on collision with a tractor-trailer. He was deleted on the spot. The police said he likely had a seizure or passed out while driving. I'm not going to lie here, I'm a mess right now. My support system is the only reason I'm able to be a semi-functional adult right now, but everybody has been there for me and the kids, and I'm so grateful. I really don't know how to end this post, but thank you for being there during all of this.